Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 17 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series, presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, you can already see it here on your screen, we're doing something a little bit different here this evening. For the first time in all 17 seasons of competition here in the ASRC Oval Series, we are heading on out to the dirt track here this evening. Going to be doing a little bit of slipping and sliding out here in the mud up here at the Limaland Motorsports Park up here in Lima, Ohio. And this is bound to be a bit of a doozy of a race here. We have 14 drivers registered here for tonight's event. If I'm not mistaken, I believe, yeah, that is actually the most amount of drivers we have shown up here so far here in season number 17. And we are here at a 0.25 mile or 0.4 kilometer for those of you who use the metric system speedway here. So it is bound to be a little bit crazy, a little bit chaotic here, but it should hopefully be a fun one. Of course, not the first time ASRC as a whole has been here. This league has visited to this track before in its dedicated dirt series that ran back in 2021 for a couple of events. They did a lot of back-to-back races, so that's part of why the number was so high. Jason Mong was the main driver to beat then, has 3 wins out of the 11 visits to this speedway. Unfortunately, Jason Mong not out here tonight. So one way or another, we might just see drivers setting a new record in the history book. Certainly a new record for the Oval Series as the first ever dirt track on the schedule. Speaking of doing things differently here tonight, though, drivers are making their way down to the starting grid. We're going to be doing some heat races here this evening to determine the starting lineup here tonight. And if we can't get that pulled up here for y'all to see, starting out on the pole here for this first heat race here, it's going to be the number 09 of Benjamin Harsey making his debut here for round number 3, or well, for season number 17 as a whole. Starting his outside though in the number 42, that is going to be none other than Michael Sparks in the Rexy green machine down there, starting out position number 2. Back in third in the number 15 machine, that's going to be the SM Racing Products driver of Garrett Streets back there rolling off position number 3, followed by the 18 of Joshua Rudolph in the K9P Racing entry back there in position number 4, with Garrett Hess back in the number 12 machine running in the Supersonico entry here this evening. He's going to be starting off position number 5 here for this heat race. And that's it. It looks like drivers have made their way down to the starting grid, so we're getting ready to get this first heat race rolling. There are no eliminations or anything like that. This is just to determine the starting lineup here for our actual main event later on here tonight. Going to be doing a bit of a shorter main event here just because how these dirt tracks and how these cars tend to handle here on dirt. So they will be doing these heat races pretty much just to give a little bit more of a show to y'all back at home before our main event here seating. So getting ready to go green flag racing here. Gonna be doing one more lap around the circuit before the pace truck pulls off down to the safety of pit lane. Should only be 7 laps for these heat races, then going to be a 50 lap main event later on here tonight. It's going to be Michael Sparks and Benjamin Harsey, your 2 front runners here. We'll see what these drivers are able to do here for our first heat race of the evening to set the starting lineup for our main event later on tonight. Pace car is off, and just like that, green flag up in the air at the Limaland Motorsports Park. Way up the track there in that number 18 machine. That's Joshua Rudolph going way up high, scraping up against the wall there a little bit. Garrett Streets immediately up to an early lead here as we cross the line here with 6 to go. Streets and Hess duking it out. Not all too unfamiliar considering how things went last week at the Charlotte Legends Oval, where we saw Streets competing with Hess to be the only driver not put a lap down by that number 12 machine. High five up in the air though. 5 laps left to go here for this main heat race. There's a little bit of beating banging going on further back there between Sparks and Rudolph, but everyone's keeping it pointed in the right direction here. Now 4 laps left to go for our heat race number 1 here. And Sparks having some trouble getting real loose coming out the corner. He hangs on to it, manages to save it, but that's going to cost him a pretty decent bit of ground. As up here at the front, Streets and Hess, the two Garretts duke it out. Hess down on the bottom, Streets up on the high line. Going to be 2 to go when we come out 3 and 4 right here for this first heat race. Again, no eliminations. This is just to set the starting order for the main event. Right now, Streets still hanging on to the lead as the rest of the field starting to fall back here a little bit. And for some of these drivers, this might be their first ever dirt experience here on the iRacing.com platform. So very wide variety of drivers bringing their talents here, but the whole point of this mini stock series was to kind of challenge everyone's skill set and throw everything at the wall at these people. Coming across the finish line though, Garrett Streets is going to be your winner here for heat race number 1. Hess back in P number 2. That's going to be Harsty, Rudolph, and Sparks. Your finishing order here for heat race number 1. And just like that, it's already time for heat race number 2. A new set of 5 drivers going to be duking it out again, just to start the starting position and pretty much give a little bit of more variety and more length to the show here this evening, as our main event will only be 50 laps instead of the usual 100. Let's take a look down here, see how things will be shaking up for heat race number 2. Starting out on the front of this one is going to be the number 14 of Nico Morelli, running that unsponsored red machine here this evening. Definitely interesting to see Nico out here on the track. He's a driver here in the league, very well renowned for his road course prowess. So I'm definitely curious to see how he manages to fare here on this dirt track. Starting his outside though, it's going to be another unsponsored machine. That's going to be the 78 of Derek Murphy controlling the outside line on this initial start. That's going to be the number 4 of Daniel Sparks, one of our 2 Canadian drivers, one of our 3 Canadian drivers here this evening, starting back in position number 3. With Brandon Feeney in that Hot Wheels number 9 machine, we're starting off position number 4. Then back at the tail end of heat race number 2, it's going to be the number 93 ASRC entry of Jason Gardner, league administrator, going to be starting off at the tail end of heat number 2. And just like that, green flag up in the air. Nico Morelli off to a really solid early lead here. Further behind, duking it out here between Murphy and Feeney. So far, so good. Side by side here for the 4th position. 6 laps left to go already, just like that. Morelli is pulling away here, but Gardner, Murphy, and Feeney all duking it out here for 3rd on back. Everyone trying different lines here, trying to figure out what exactly is the ideal racing line here around this circuit. Something important to consider too, the track state here from the heat races will be qualifying, or will be continuing over to the main event. We're not going to be refreshing the track at all between these heats and the main. Gardner manages to make a move down on the bottom to get around that number 9 machine of Brandon Feeney here. Still managing to make the bottom stick, but will we see Feeney come back around here on the high line? He's certainly trying to make it happen, but you can see just how much these cars are having to drift through the corners here. A little bit of a scrape against the outside wall for the number 9 machine as he really tries to make something stick here. Now Gardner's looking to try and make the move down on the inside on that number 4 machine of Daniel Sparks. And I'll tell you what, Gardner's making it look like the bottom's place to be, but big impact. Brandon Feeney is around. The caution flag is out on the speedway for the first time here tonight. And caution laps do not count here this evening. So we will be extending the length of the race for this heat race. Will be a 2-lap shootout when we take the green flag again after we get everyone racked back up. Let's take a moment to look back here at this first caution of the evening here in heat race number 2 between Brandon Feeney and the number 4 machine up there. Feeney down to the bottom of the track, and it looks like Sparks might have just gotten loose a little bit. Not a whole lot he could have done there to hang on to that. Taking a look back here, how about we ride on board with the number 4 of Mr. Daniel Sparks? See what he saw going down into that incident. Just a little bit loose off the corner, and honestly, it didn't even seem like he really felt the impact there at all. So that will be what brings out the first caution flag of the evening. We're now working on getting everything racked back up, and it looks like the pace truck is off. Gonna be a single file restart here, but green flag back up in the air as we cross the line. Going to be a 2-lap shootout, and already we have a driver around. Brandon Feeney around in the infield. We are still green flag racing though. 2 to go. White flag going to be going up this time by Feeney back at the tail end of things. Going to be Morelli leading the field here to the white flag side by side for Sparks and Gardner. Gardner, big hiccup going through the corner. That's going to cost him a position or two. It looks like he might have hit one of the tires down on the infield there. Cost him a lot of speed. That's going to bump him back to third. It's going to be Nico Morelli that wins heat race number 2, with Daniel Sparks rounding out the podium of that second heat race. And just like that, just about to get ready here for our third and I believe final heat race here. As, yeah, only 4 drivers in this one, so this should be the final heat race of the evening. And taking a look down there at the starting lineup here for this one. Going to be Corey Logan starting out at the front of this third heat race, excuse me. Corey Logan and Mark Kluge. Kluge in that Midwest number 27, starting to the outside of the CZ Robotics number 24. Then just behind is going to be the number 85 Makoni Setup Shop entry of Brian Sabelski back in third, with the number 44 of Mark Royce, driver out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, rounding out position number 4. So this will be our final heat race here for this evening before we get rolling for our main event later on here tonight. And that will be a 50-lap main event, and again, same sort of deal. Caution laps will not count during the main. So we'll see if these 14 drivers manage to keep things green once we get to that point. But for right now, getting ready to go green for our final heat race of the evening. And just like that, the iRacing.com pace truck's going to duck to the safety of pit lane. We are going to get this thing underway. Green flag up in the air here at the Limaland Motorsports Park. And a really solid start so far by everyone all throughout the field. But issues, Brian Sabelski is around. Looks like the green flag is still out here, but Sabelski has fallen back to the 4th position by a pretty considerable amount. Corey Logan starting to pull away here, but it's going to be Royce and Kluge for 2nd and 3rd. Both of them all over the place back here coming out of turn number 2. Royce having a little bit of issues on corner entry there in that number 44 machine, but manages to hang up onto it as Corey Logan drifts up the track a little bit, ends up in the outside wall. Mark Royce going to take the race lead there as Kluge follows on in through behind him. We had the battles between the 2 Garretts earlier on. Now it's the battle between the 2 Marks for the lead of this 3rd heat race here this evening, as Sabelski is 6 seconds back on the speedway right now. If he wants to get back into this, he's probably have to depend on a caution out of these 3 front runners here. 3 laps left to go here for this final heat race of the evening though at the Limaland Motorsports Park. Then we will have our starting lineup ready to go for our 50-lap main event not too long after this. 2 laps left to go now here. Mark Royce leading the way by a full second over Kluge, who has a full second over Logan here. White flag going to be going up in the air this time around. Kluge sent it deep down in turns 3 and 4, but not quite able to make it stick down in that number 27 machine. We'll see if he has anything to show him from 0.8 of a second back here down in turns 3 and 4. Not quite. Checker flag up in the air. Mark Royce going to take home the win for this 3rd and final heat race here of the evening. Kluge, despite the issues coming out of turn number 4, still manages to take home 2nd. That's going to be Corey Logan and Brian Sabelski rounding out the tail end of this final heat race. And just like that, looks like these drivers will have a brief little bit of intermission before we take the green flag for real. Just some final last moment adjustments to get these cars, to get everything good to go. Make sure they're all ready for this main event here. Going to be a 50-lap main event here this evening. And we haven't even had a chance to really talk about the point standings or the current championship picture coming into tonight's event. Coming into tonight, Derek Murphy is currently tied with Garrett Streets for the lead of the championship, both drivers with 28 points to their name. Then back in third, Garrett Hess, 26 points to his name, with a very solid run a couple of weeks ago. Took home the win back at the Charlotte Legends Oval back on December 30th. Then back and forth, Jason Gardner trails just behind with 20 points to his name. Then it's a tie for fifth between Mark Kluge and Joshua Rudolph here. So definitely a lot of drivers to be keeping an eye on here tonight. A lot could be on the line for some of these drivers. Of course, 2 more dirt tracks after this one. But we might see some of those drivers that have been struggling more on the asphalt side of things put together some solid work here on these dirt tracks. We'll just have to see what happens. When you look down there, you can see all these drivers out there for some final practice laps, some little bits of adjustment to their cars before we go racing for the main event. And this will give you an idea of how congested the track is actually going to be during our main event. Right now, 12 of our 14 cars are on the speedway right now doing some last minute practice before the main. But we should be wrapping things up for this final practice session here in just a moment. Sure enough, we have gotten the checkered flag from the flagman, so this will be the end of this little bit of last chance practice, and we will be getting ready for our main event here in just a moment. Alrighty, now it's time to get the starting order for our main event here for the third round of the season for season number 17 at the Limaland Motorsports Park. Starting out on the pole here in the SM Racing Products number 15 machine driver out of Topeka, Kansas, going to be none other than Mr. Garrett Streets, one of the drivers who has been the biggest proponent of us doing a dirt race here in the ASRC Oval Series. Not entirely surprising to see him doing a solid performance here so far here tonight. Starting his outside, though, in the unsponsored number 14, that's going to be Nico Morelli back in position number 2, with the number 44 of Mark Roy starting off position number 3. Back in position number 4 in the number 12 machine, that's going to be the Supersonico number 12 of Garrett Hess, followed by Daniel Sparks in the 4 machine back in position number 5. Back in 6, going to be the 27 of Mark Kluge back there, followed by the 09 of Benjamin Harsty back in position number 7. Back in 8th, going to be the number 93 ASRC entry of Mr. League Administrator Jason Gardner, rolling off position number 8, followed by the C0 Robotics number 24 driver out of Noonan, Georgia, back there in position number 9. Back in 10th, going to be the K9P Racing 18 machine, or I believe it's 188 on the side of his car, but that's going to be Joshua Rudolph, rolling off back in position number 10. Back 11th, going to be the 78 of Derek Murphy, followed by Brian Sabelski in the McConaughey Setup Shop number 85, back in 12th. Then rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening, going to be the number 42 of Michael Sparks and the number 9 of Brandon Feedy back at the very, very tail end of things. We're getting ready to go green flag racing, though. We'll see how things work out here for these drivers. Going to be 50 laps up on the board. And just like that, green flag up in the air here for the Limaland Motorsports Park 50. And immediately bumping and baking all over the place. Already drivers are checking up, and caution flag immediately out on the speedway. I don't see any drivers super turn around. Looks like we might have had an issue for Feeney there. But immediately, it was a hornet's nest going down in turns 1 and 2. And just like that, first caution flag of the night is going to be out here on the track. Let's see if we can look back here and try and figure out what all went wrong. Coming to the green here, we did get word from the truck that it might have been Corey Logan, but I'm more focused on this incident further up. But oh, sure enough, first spin of the evening will be for Corey Logan in that C0 Robotics 24 together with I believe that was Jason Gardner that they made contact with. Sure enough, in that number 93 machine. So there was a whole separate incident that we saw going on up at the front of things. We're taking a second look down here. So that is what officially brought out the caution. And then you can see drivers just all over the place trying to swerve to avoid the incident up at the front of the field here, with Garrett Hess, Nico Morelli, and that 44 machine of Mark Royce just immediately going 3 wide down into turn number 1. Didn't quite work out. They get pinched together, but that 14 of Nico Morelli actually gets pointed back in the right direction. And that's where you see drivers 4 and 5 wide. Everyone just kind of swerving to avoid the big stack up there. But just like that, green flag is already back up in the air. Very short cautions here at the Limaland Motorsports Park. And it's going to be Garrett Streets leading the field here in the number 15 machine, as time and scoring board's a little bit confused on where we're at right now, but it should be here in the right direction now. Streets leading the field over Royce and Hess back there in third. Then we have Morelli and Daniel Sparks back and forth in fifth. Pretty much all nose to tail here around the speedway. People have started to single file it out, trying to be a little bit more patient with each other. Of course, caution laps do not count, so we are only 5 laps into the books here. There's a bit of a swerve there for the number 4 machine. That was Daniel Sparks having some issues coming out of turn number 4, but he manages to hang on to it here. Now 5 laps in the books, and side by side for Sparks and Kluge there in that 27 Midwest entry, just behind Benjamin Harsty trying to make some moves in the 09 machine. This is back for the 6th position between those two drivers. We might have a driver around there. Sure enough, we do. Corey Logan is around on the back straightaway. Caution flag is now out on the speedway for the 2nd time here this evening. And it looks like we have a driver down on pit lane. Michael Sparks is down on pit lane, which is interesting to see. Looks like he took the tow truck down there, because there's pretty much no reason for drivers to be on pit lane right now. So we'll have to check out and try and see what the issue is with Michael Sparks here. But let's take a look back, see what brought out this first caution flag here. And sure enough, I see Michael Sparks in the picture, so that might be the answer to our question here. We see Corey Logan in that C0 box 24 down on the bottom of the 42 with Michael Sparks. Sparks loses it, spins out, spins down in the Corey, and a hard impact into the outside wall for Sparks. And that is a smashed right front tire, sure enough. Sparks definitely not going to be continuing on with this one. So that will be our first caution flag of the evening here tonight, and it looks like we are already getting things lined back up to try and go green flag racing here. Sure enough, pace truck is off. We are stacking things back up here. And just like that, green flag back up in the air once again, nose to tail for Streets and Hess as we take the green, but it looks like everything is okay throughout the field here. 2 by 2 a lot of the ways back, even 3 wide here in some spots between Sabelski, Gardner, and Feeney there for just a moment, but it looks like we are generally a-okay around the field. Is up at the front, Streets and Hess duking it out. Mark Royce back here trying to get into this battle as well, but the two Garretts throwing hands once again. They duked it out last week at the Charlotte Legends Oval. Same length as this speedway. Now throwing it down again here in the dirt. Streets up on the high line in that number 15 machine. Hess down in the bottom in that pink Supersonico number 12. And right now it's looking really evenly matched between the two racing lines here. Both these drivers pretty fairly matched with each other. Of course, Hess gets the advantage taking the shorter line around the track, but up on the high line, Streets is able to just carry more momentum out of the corner, and that's allowing him to keep up with that number 12 machine. It does look like he is starting to fall back here just a little bit. Sure enough, Hess clears him. Hess, the new race leader. He's going to go for the crossover there. He'll try and make a move down at the very bottom of the track, but he has that 44 Mark Royce down inside of him, 3 wide here at the Limaland Motorsports Park. Not sure how well that's going to hold out, but so far so good for these drivers. Royce falling back a little bit there in that 44, had a bit of issues coming out of the corner, lost a lot of momentum. But still, it is Hess and Streets for the race lead here on this first dirt race here in ASRC Oval Series competition. We did get word from Michael Sparks down there on pit lane, at least 8 minutes to repair that car and get that right front tire put back on. So with how short this race is, I don't think we're going to be able to see this driver get back out on the raceway, unfortunately. But still 2 more dirt races left to go on the calendar to potentially make things work out in that number 42 machine. So we'll just have to see how things play out for that driver later on here in the season. Coming into tonight's event, Sparks was being scored back in the 7th position in the championship points standings, just behind Joshua Rudolph. Still looking at this battle up at the front, though, between Hess and Streets and Mark Royce. Mark Kluge starting to get involved in here as well. So we have Garrett and Garrett duking it out, then Mark and Mark all battling it out for your top 4 positions here this evening. And right now, Hess looking pretty good. Streets and Royce now side by side for 2nd. Royce down on the bottom. Streets once again trying to make the high line work up here. And once again, it seems like Streets is able to sort of get some good momentum off the corner, but it's not quite going to be enough. Royce is going to clear him that time around, and he's not going to be able to make that ground up much here at all. But he sends it in a little bit too deep, makes contact with the back of the 44 machine. That is going to throw off Royce's rhythm there just a little bit, but Streets gets on the brakes, forfeits the position back to him after that little bit of contact here. And all of this is just allowing Garrett Hess to pull away from the field here. Big sweep against the outside wall, though. That's going to cost Royce a position. Streets now down to the bottom of him once again. Here comes Kluge just behind, wanting to get involved in this action as well. Just has to wait for an opening, an opportunity to try and slip in there and make something happen here. Already closing in on the halfway point of tonight's event, though. Just crazy to think how quickly these drivers are clicking off laps. But after that initial incident, drivers seem to be doing pretty okay here on the speedway now. We've gotten a little bit more spread out, but for the most part, everyone's playing nice with each other here. How about a little bit further back here, this battle going on between Joshua Rudolph, Brian Sabelski, Brandon Feeney, as we might have a driver around. That's Nico Morelli having a big wiggle in that number 14 machine. Almost went around there. More contact here between Sabelski and Feeney here. No, Sabelski and Rudolph down on the bottom of the track in that blue and white 188. Sabelski here in the middle in the white and yellow number 85. Then Feeney up top in the Hot Wheels number 9. All drivers that have not come down pit lane are still on the lead lap right now, but it looks like Daniel Sparks has also had to come down pit lane, which is very unfortunate to see here. Under the green flag, really even under the yellow of pit stop at this track is basically a death sentence. So very unfortunate for these 2 drivers. No confirmation on if Daniel Sparks will be able to get back out on the track or not here this evening. With 22 laps left to go, still watching this battle for 7th on back through 10th here. As more contact between Sabelski and Rudolph. Rudolph down on the bottom, really leading on that number 85 machine. Logan just behind, probably glad to see it, because that looks like an opportunity to try and sneak in there and make a pass. Logan going way up high in the number 24, not quite able to make a move happen here. But Rudolph and Sabelski absolutely just leaning on each other here, really throwing it in the corners with everything they've got here. We've only got 20 laps left to go here at Limaland to settle the score. Make that 19 as Garrett Hess crosses the line with a 2.7 second lead over the rest of the field right now here. You can see how spread out the field has gotten, as Feeney having a little bit of issues down there on the bottom of the track. That's going to allow Sabelski to get around him on the high side. Here comes Rudolph down there as well, trying to see if he can't make a move happen here, but not quite close enough. You can see coming out of the corners here, coming out of these drifts, some of these drivers are wiggling a little bit, not quite having the traction they need on corner exit. It's certainly kicking up a lot of dirt here at the Limaland Speedway. As so far, looks like Sabelski is going to be the main front runner here in this pack. Mind you, these drivers are 11 seconds back, 12 seconds back in some instances from our race leader right now of Garrett Hess. And with 15 laps left to go, unless there's a caution, it's going to be very difficult to close that gap up. It doesn't sound like a lot here, but on such a tiny track like this one, that little bit of a gap can be a pretty big deal. Now Feeney trying his luck on the bottom here, trying to get back around Rudolph. Feeney up +5 from where he started here, but was running a bit higher up earlier in the goings of this one, so lost a couple of spots. And again, not a great corner exit there in that number 9 machine. That's going to cost him a bit of ground. Now Corey Logan trying to make a move up here on the high line in that 24 machine. Was able to get around him there for just a second. Will they be able to carry the momentum? We might have a driver around, though. Caution flag out on the speedway for the third time here this evening, and it's going to be for Mark Kluge. So that will be caution flag number 3. That is going to pause the lap counter here. Going to be 12 to go when we take the green flag after this caution. Let's see if we can't take a look back here, see what happened to Mark Kluge side by side there with the number 44 machine of Mark Royce. This was battling up inside the top 5 here. Kluge down the bottom, Royce up high, and a little bit of a wobble, tries to save it, just kind of overcorrects there in that 27 machine. Doesn't look like he actually had any contact with any other drivers there. Take a moment to ride on board with him here. So far so good, just trying to hang on to it, and then a little bit of overcorrection, and the rear end just went around on him. Immediately under the caution flag once again after a little bit of a hiccup coming to the green there and some technical difficulties here with the stream that we're trying to get figured out here up in the broadcast booth. Well, let's take a moment real quick to take a look back and see what brought out this incident. Taking a look down here, it's looking like it's starting with the Caesar Robotics 24 of Corey Logan. Possibly. We see one car way down to the bottom. That's the 188 of Joshua Rudolph, who had some issues there. And it looks like Logan came up into the 85 of Sabelski, collects Rudolph there as well. And that will be the cause of caution flag number 4 here on the speedway. Still trying to figure out what the deal is here with our trackside audio here. So even trying to get things worked out here. We're going to go back here in just a moment and see if we can't figure out what is going on here. All right, there we go. Should be good to go now with audio back here on the raceway. 1 to green here. The pace truck just about to pull off. Going to be Garrett Hess and Garrett Streets leading the field to green here. Going to be 10 to go across the line. Green flag back up in the air. Let's see what these drivers are able to do here at the Limaland Motorsports Park. And immediately we're seeing some 2-3 wide here. A little bit scary to see. So far, everyone's got it pointed in the right direction. Big wiggle up there for Benjamin Harsty, almost into the number 93 of Jason Gardner, but looks like we're still keeping things pointed in the right direction for the time being. Back in the middle of the pack, it is just a hornet's nest all around the speedway right now, as it seems like for the most part everyone's okay. Nico Morelli having a little bit of trouble there, and we have a driver around. That is going to be Jason Gardner and Brandon Feeney around on the back straightaway for caution number 5, actually for the front straightaway, excuse me, to bring out our 5th caution flag of the evening. Let's see if we can't take a look down here, see what all happened to bring out this caution flag. It looks like it originated with the number 93 of Jason Gardner. You can see him here down on the bottom below the 27 of Mark Kluge and the number 9 of Brandon Feeney. A little bit of a wiggle coming out of the corner. Now going down into turns 3 and 4. Okay. And just comes up the track a little bit into the number 9. Sends them both around here. We'll jump up a little bit further back. Let's ride on board with the 188 machine real quick of Joshua Rudolph. See his view going into this incident. He just mini stocks all over the track here. Fortunately, Rudolph able to mix it. Not everyone quite so lucky here. It's going to be 1 to green here, and we should be doing this single file. And sure enough, yes, we will. Hess going to lead the field to green in front of Garrett Street. So once again, they're going to be Mark Royce just behind, then Harsty and Mark Kluge as we take the green flag here. 7 laps left to go here at the Limaland Motorsports Park, and already I'm hearing some scary noises coming from the mid-pack. Bit of beating and banging against the outside wall here, but looks like around the speedway we are generally A-okay right now. Hess and Streets continue to lead the field here, all single file all the way back to Nico Morelli down there battling it out with Brian Sabelski. The league's 2 main road course ringers duking it out with each other for the 6th position right now. As we get the big high five up in the air from Barney the Flagman. 5 laps left to go here at the Limaland Motorsports Park. And still more scraping against the wall, more beating and banging back here towards the tail end of the field. This is Logan and Gardner duking it out here. Just up ahead we have Feeney and Morelli. As it looks like both of the Sparks have managed to get back out onto the raceway. Derek Murphy also unfortunately 1 lap down. As we have trouble there for Gardner, and we have 1 car around. Mark Kluge is around. But we are still under the green flag here. It's going to be 2 to go as Garrett Hess crosses the line. Still green flag here racing on the speedway. Hess leads the field by 0.6 of a second. All he needs is to take the white flag here, so the race does not get extended any further, and he may be good to go. Sure enough, white flag up in the air. Next flag will end the race. Garrett Hess, your race leader, over Garrett Streets by 0.6 of a second. And head down through turns 3 and 4 once again for the final time here this evening. It's going to be Garrett Hess taking home the checkered flag here at the Limaland Motorsports Park and taking home his 2nd win here of season number 17. Hess showing he has what it takes to get it done on the asphalt and on the dirt. If it is a short track, he is ready to do it. As we have 1 driver having a bit of issues there. That was Mark Kluge up there. Hess going to bring it on down to pit lane. Will we see a burnout from that number 12 machine? Looks like yes, we will. Watch out, there's pit crew down there, Hess. Okay, yeah, just go ahead and hit their toolbox, no big deal. Try to avoid running over any people. I don't know if we're allowed to show that on the broadcast. And he's going to hit another toolbox just for good measure. Alrighty, race fans. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with your top 3 finishers. So don't go anywhere, and we will be back in just a moment. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, here in the books, the first ever dirt race of the ASRC Oval Series, and it's going to be none other than a bit of a repeat from last week with a 1-2 Garrett and Garrett finish here tonight, though not quite the same margin of error here this evening. But it's going to be Garrett Hess taking home the checkered flag here tonight. Garrett, how are you feeling here this evening?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Fair enough. I like it. What was your thoughts coming into a dirt race here tonight? How confident were you feeling about that?
I was feeling reasonably confident. I was doing official races just to see how this car handled, and it was really just making sure the car doesn't bog down on the exits of the corners and just keeping it straight. And if as long as you did that, you'd be fast. So that was my main goal. And over the practice that I did, I was getting better and better at being fast while keeping it pretty straight. And it was a pretty close race with me and Garrett. There were some real close moments. I do want to apologize for that first caution. I got a little too big for my drawers and got into Nick and caused a whole scuffle. But that didn't mean to cause that to happen. But overall, pretty hectic race. That was a good battle with Mark and Garrett.
Well, being the first driver here this season to have repeat wins, that should pretty much solidify you as the points championship exiting tonight's event. How do you feel about your chances going into the next two dirt races later on in the season?
Well, I don't really know. So the other two dirt races are linear dirt and USA. I'm all right at USA. I'm kind of trash at linear. So really just depends on when we get there. But I'm looking forward to next week at Road Atlanta. These cars are pretty fun on the road courses. But there are some pretty good road course drivers in ASRC that can really easily whip my butt. So it'll be fun to see next week.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things we're gonna have to be keeping on an eye on next week when y'all start making right turns. I don't know how legal that is, but I ain't in charge here. But of course, you've done really solid so far in these first couple of races. Do you feel like this could be a season to take home another championship to your name?
I think it's definitely possible if I can keep up this momentum. Hopefully, I can do it a little bit cleaner. But if I can keep up this momentum, anything is possible. So it's definitely in the cards.
Fair enough. I like to hear it. I'm definitely curious to see what you'll be able to pull off here this season. But of course, for tonight, I won't keep you here all evening. You got another win to your name to celebrate. But before I let you go, the microphone is all yours. Who do you want to thank for making it happen?
I just want to thank everyone at Team Watson Racing. Great group of guys over there, fun to talk to. If you need setups for iRacing, Team Watson Racing setup, they're a great place to get some setups from some of the best drivers in the game. Also want to thank my brother for giving me a reason to wake up every morning. I want to thank whoever's in control of the weather for making it snow so I didn't have to go to work today. I thoroughly enjoyed that because it snowed about 8 inches here. But besides that, I think that pretty much covers everything.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on win number two. And I look forward to seeing you next week at Road Atlanta.
Yes, sir. See you then.
And finishing back in position number two, continuing the trend of last week, it's going to be none other than Mr. Garrett Streets. Garrett, not Hess. How are you feeling here tonight?
Oh, pretty good. Another second place finish 3 weeks in a row. So we're averaging a average finish of 2.00 on the season. So I can't complain too much about that.
Sure enough, consistency can definitely be key here. And of course, next week, heading on over to a road course, do you think you might be able to get another second place or maybe even better next week?
Aiden, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to give you a big fat no on that one. I am not the premier road course racer here in the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have never visited Road Atlanta. And so I'm going to have to be dishing out $15 or whatever it is in order to get the track and find some hard drive space and turn some laps.
Fair enough. I mean, sure, who knows what might happen out there? We have always seen maybe a little bit of chaos on the road courses here this series in ASRC as a whole, really. But of course, we do have a drop week. In a hypothetical world, let's say Road Atlanta is your drop week. You've got a couple more short tracks, a couple more dirt ovals, and then pretty much one more big oval left to go. So, how are you feeling with your championships potential as a whole?
Uh, like I said last week, I think if we can have an average finish on the whole season of 2.00, I feel like that makes us pretty hard to beat. I'd love to get out and win one, and I think we have some opportunities looking at the schedule. There's some pretty good tracks on the schedule, but um, yeah, I mean, right now I can't complain too much. I'd love to have one in the win column, but a whole bunch of second places isn't nothing to be upset about. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the chances. Hopefully, we can keep running well, keep running clean, and be there at the end and battling for the championship here in a few weeks.
Sure enough. And of course, actually, we still have a pretty good ways to go until another dirt race. We don't go to Lanier until February the 10th. But is that one of the ones you have particularly circled on your calendar here this season?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the dirt race and stuff. Like I said before, I haven't run the mini stock a whole lot on the dirt. I've dabbled in it here and there, but I just have a lot of fun doing the dirt stuff. I like the line variation, and as the track continues to wear, these cars don't quite eat up the track as much as some of the more high power dirt cars do, but you still get a little bit of changing up your line to try to get some speed as the race goes on. So, um, yeah, we'll see. I definitely think that we have a pretty good shot there, and yeah, it'll be one that we look forward to for sure.
Good deal. Definitely a lot of exciting things later this season to keep an eye on. But of course, before I let you go home here for this evening, Mr. Streets, the microphone's all yours. Who you want to thank for making everything happen?
Yeah, I just want to thank Jason at ASRC here. He puts in a lot of work, is making sure that everything's ran well, put together, up to date. So appreciate all the work he does to have a great league for all of us to come out to every week. I want to thank you for doing the broadcast. I especially like this evening with the heat races. I was able to uh, turn on the broadcast on a different monitor and watch you commentating the heat races that I was not in. So that was a lot of fun. So I always appreciate you doing the broadcast. I want to thank all the guys that come out here for ASRC every week. It's a great group of guys. If any of you are watching, not a member, come out here, race with us. It's a ton of fun. I can't recommend it more. Want to thank everyone who supports SM Racing Products. If you're looking for any new sim racing hardware, check out sm-racingproducts.com. And then lastly, I'd like to thank my girlfriend Morgan. I think she just cheered me on watching the race tonight. So yeah, with that, and yep,
Good deal.
lost
Thank
my train of thought there.
you. Fair enough. It happens to the best of us. I'm sure this won't be the last time that we see you up here in the broadcast booth, so you got some time to think about it maybe next week.
Maybe so. Hopefully, we can put a good one together and talk to you next week. It's always good with you, Aiden.
Yes, sir. And then finishing back here in position number 3, Mr. Mark Royce was the rounding out driver of the podium here tonight and the only driver to finish in the exact same spot where he started. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have him up here in the broadcast booth for the time being, so we'll give him just a moment to see if we can't get him up here to get some words from him. Otherwise, that might be just about all we've got here for the evening from the Limaland Motorsports Park. I'll give this driver just a moment to see. Maybe he's down in pit lane. He's already got a beer open, but we'll see if we can't find him down there. And it doesn't look like we see him down anywhere on the infield, so not quite sure where Mr. Royce has gotten his way off to. Unfortunately, doesn't sound like we're going to be hearing from him here this evening. But a very solid run for the driver of that number 44 machine here this evening. He's going to be taking home the 3rd position here tonight. Of course, your top 3 drivers weren't the only drivers here in tonight's event. So how about we take a look down at our race results, see how things shook up here this evening for our main event. Of course, the only points paying event here of the evening. The heat races, of course, were just for the qualifying order, so they do not count for anything in regards to the point standings. But it's going to be Hess and Streets, your 2 front runners, followed by Mark Royce back in 3rd. Then back and forth is going to be the 09 of Benjamin Harsty, followed by the number 85 of Brian Sabelski back in position number 5. Then it's going to be Nico Morelli in the number 14 machine back in 6th, followed by the number 9 Hot Wheels entry of Brandon Feeney back in 7th. That's going to be the CZ Robotics number 24 of Corey Logan back in position number 8, followed by the 18 of Joshua Rudolph back in 9th, with the league administrator Jason Gardner rounding out the top 10 here this evening. Then, of course, back in 11th is going to be the 27 of Mark Kluge, followed by Derek Murphy back in the 12th position in the 78 machine. Then it's going to be Daniel Sparks and Michael Sparks, respectively, rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening. That said, that's about all we got here from the Limaland Motorsports Park for the first ever dirt race here in the ASRC Oval Series. It's going to be the first of 3 here this season. Of course, like we were saying during the interviews, on February 10th is when our next dirt race will be. It will be at the Lanier National Speedway. Then 2 more races after that at the USA International Speedway for March the 3rd. Will be the 3rd and final dirt race here of the season. But next week, heading on over to Road Atlanta for our first road course of the season. We'll see how drivers are able to fare making left and right turns in these little mini stock machines. For now, though, that's about all we got here from Limaland Motorsports. Thank you all for tuning in here this evening, and we look forward to seeing y'all same day, same time at 10 p.m. Monday nights for the ASRC Oval Series presented by SM Racing.